Hey everybody, Chad Dolbier here with Stokes Honda TV, back with you with Colonel Joe Tallon. Now, Colonel Joe Tallon's got a book being released this summer, 2016, and it's called
Not Your Average G.I. Joe.
Now, Joe, tell us a little bit about your book and your history, because you were in the Vietnam War, and from speaking with you today a little bit, he's got a really great story to tell, and I think this book's going to be very interesting to read.
Yeah, I basically telling a story of what I did in Vietnam, plus what I did preparing to go there, and what I did when I came back. It's all inclusive. It's not just the Vietnam War. It talks about the combat missions that I flew. I flew a spy plane, if you like a spy thriller. I mean, we flew places and countries, and I named the countries in the book where the president and the Army still says we weren't there. And the type missions were normally performed at night using infrared and SLAR. And SLAR is side-looking airborne radar. The infrared will see things on the ground because of their heat signatures, and we can pick that up. So those are the type missions that I flew. I flew 66 combat missions until my last one when I was shot down. And then the book deals with that struggle of being shot down by a heat-seeking missile, the injuries in combat, the different wounds, multiple wounds, 14 different injuries and wounds, recovering from that, nearly 80 surgeries, 24, 25 under general anesthetic, the rest under local, still having surgical problems to this day, still having to deal with pain to this day, and overcoming that and continuing to serve the Army for 35 years after they gave me a 2% chance of living, which not many people would do.
Now you wrote your wife some letters. How many letters did you write her while you were gone overseas?
I was there 103 days, of which 10 days I was in the burn unit at China Beach Hospital. So I didn't write any letters during that 10-day period. So 93, 92 days was all the time period that I had to write letters. And I actually wrote her 78 letters. Wow. Total of 78 letters, including one on August the 11th, the night that I took off and was shot down the morning of August the 12th. So I actually wrote her a letter and mailed it before I got in my plane for a combat mission that night.
Wow. You know, that's love right there, folks. That's real love.
She saved them all.
And she's still here today.
Yes.
Now, y'all live out in Summerville, South Carolina?
We had been married 10 months when I went to Vietnam, and I told her, don't believe any reports you get until you see the body, because I'm gonna come back. And they reported me killed in action for 5 days. And my CO had misidentified me because my face was burned so badly. And my CO started crying when he came in the hospital, and I asked him what was wrong. He said, we reported you killed in action and the observer had lived. And it was just the opposite. My observer was killed and I survived. And I would go through many surgeries and the burn unit in Texas, and Walter Reed for reconstructive surgery, and reworking my joints and other injuries that I had. And I've had surgeries within the last 3 or 4 years related from injuries I actually got in combat.
So for the as you say, is it the inspector or the other guy that was on the plane with you?
He was an observer.
An observer. So he passed away.
Correct.
With the plane crash.
At that crash site.
And for 40 years you've been trying to basically, can you kind of go into that a little bit with us?
Yeah, I kept trying to get my Purple Heart and other medals that I was entitled to from combat. And the Army, Department of Army, and the President kept saying their story was we weren't there. Their cover story, because the missions were all classified secret or top secret. So it took me 36 years finally to get my Purple Heart. And the way I got it, I had to sue the Army through the Military Court of Appeals. And 5 federal judges ordered them to present me with the medals. And then it took another 6 years with the help of Senator Scott, Tim Scott here in South Carolina, to get the Purple Heart for Daniel Richards, and I presented it to his family. I fought for 40 years to get Daniel's medal as well as mine, and nobody else knew about what happened to Daniel except for me. His own family was told that he died in an accident and it wasn't even combat related. That was the cover story that the Army told the families. And that's not true. He died in my plane, sitting a foot away from me in the observer seat, on a combat mission, facing the enemy, hit by a heat-seeking missile. Now, if that ain't combat, I don't know what is. But that's not the way it was written up, and his parents died not knowing their son was an American hero facing the enemy when he was killed. His nieces and nephews and cousins know it, but he was an only child. And his family went all those years not knowing that he was an American hero.
Wow. That's, you took on a big feat there with that one. And
that's one of the chapters, one of the final chapters in the book, of the struggle to get recognition for Daniel. Daniel Richards is his name. He is on West 1, line 64 on the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. So it's up high. It's about 7 feet high from the ground. But if you go there, if you look at West 1, line 64, you'll see the name Daniel M. Richards. And he was my observer that was killed that day, August the 12th, 1972. Was me.
Man, well, congratulations on doing that. That took a long time, but you kept pushing through on this stuff.
Absolutely. I'm the type person that doesn't quit. They told me I'd never walk again. They told me I wouldn't see again. They told me I couldn't stay in the Army. I stayed another 35 years, not all active, 9 years active and 28 in reserves, but I had to do it just to prove to them that I could, and I had to walk to prove to them. It took me a long time to get where I could walk again and use my hands again and do things and become useful, but I did it even though I was in pain and am still in pain on a daily basis, but I don't let pain defeat me. And that's one of the stories that comes out in the book is, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? So what? You've been in an accident. Is that going to dominate the rest of your life? You've been shot. So what are you going to do getting over it? And what are you going to do to improve the world? I'm an ordained chaplain with the DAV, Chapter 17, Somerville. I'm an ordained deacon in my church. I do ministry. I help people. I preach funerals of veterans, and I do veterans funerals for no charge to the family anywhere in the state of South Carolina. I can't go and bring any of my dead soldiers back from Vietnam and revive them. But my Vietnam veterans and other veterans that die in this state, I will render military honors at their funeral, and I will participate in their funerals to present honor to them and their family for their service to the country.
You know, Colonel Joe Tallon's got a great testimonial. I'm glad we're getting this on camera today. And I've told my children and friends, you got to keep pushing forward. Don't give up on whatever your dreams are, whatever you want to accomplish and change the world, even in a small way or whatever. And this guy right here, this is a true testimonial on that right there. He never kept pushing away from it. He didn't give up. He just kept going at it. And look, even how old are you now today, Joe?
69.
69, okay? And he's there, and I'm sure he's got a long way. He still wants to keep going. Is that right?
I still putting one foot in front of the other. I actually got a torn meniscus right at this minute in my right knee and a broken bone. When I tore the meniscus back in September, they did an MRI. First time I'd had an MRI on that knee, and they found a broke bone that's been in there since the plane crash, and it's encapsulated behind the kneecap. But I didn't let that keep me from walking. I've walked for 44 years on a broken knee. And you people say you can't do that, and doctors say you can't do it. If you make up your mind, you can do a lot of things.
That's right. You can.
You might be in pain, but
right.
Don't let it dictate what you're going to do.
That's right. Now, it just for him to be here today is a huge accomplishment. And he was telling me earlier, folks, that you've been in not even just a plane crash, but you've been in some situations in life where you could have died.
Oh yeah, I was run over by my father. He drove a yeast truck, 5-ton step van, and I hitched a ride with him when he was coming home. I met him at the head of the driveway, and I thought he was going to stop when he got to the backyard, and I jumped out, but he kept driving and went further in the yard than I thought, and the dual rear tires ran over both my legs. That was when I was like 4 years old, and I survived that, and it didn't even break the bones. I was fortunate. I was laid up for a while, but then I also was hit by a Studebaker, a bullet-nosed Studebaker, when I was in the 2nd grade in the crosswalk going to school. Well, he'd come around the corner and nail me. And I lived through that. And I was in a wreck driving a Volkswagen. The right rear tire blew out, and it flipped 3.5 times end over end, and it ended up on its side, and I crawled out the windshield to get out of it and walked away from it. So I've been electrocuted by a faulty electric lawnmower one time, knocked unconscious at my uncle's house cutting his grass. And they found me with my arm all drawn up I couldn't straighten my arm out because of when you get electric shock, your muscles constrict. And I couldn't straighten out my arm, and my mother was trying to convince me I was all right, and I was in a lot of pain. And but you know, I've had many opportunities in my lifetime, and it's in the book, a lot of these incidences, because the book has become a memoir covering more than just Vietnam and my recovery from Vietnam. It covers a lot of the things that should have killed me but didn't. And a lot of my friends that know me now said I have 9 lives like a cat. Well, I think I might have used about 8 of them up already, at least. So
right, you've even been shot before.
Yes.
Is that right?
And I've been shot in the head, the neck, the chest, and a .45 pistol took the part of my thumb off at Fort Stewart, Georgia, in a training mission. And that was because I was firing it on the range, and my thumb got in the way, and the slide came back and actually tore part of the bone off my left thumb, and it took about 6 stitches to close the gap there in my thumb where it tore it open. But I learned that a .45 not only will hurt you on the front end where it shoots you, but on the back end where the slide comes. Nobody told me that. It was just one of those hard lessons you learn in the military, and that's one thing I learned.
There you go. So we do thank you today for watching this video. If you're still with us, this has been a great video with Colonel Joe Tallon. We do advise you to go out, purchase the book, look on Stokes Honda Facebook over the next few months. We're going to actually keep y'all informed on when the book's coming out, and when it gets released, we'll put a link up on Stokes Honda Facebook with this video saying, hey, this is where you can go to purchase the book online, or go right to the store and buy it. Now, will this book probably be published nationwide?
Yes, we're going to try. Our publisher has a number of books that have already gone national, and some that's won some very prestigious awards, and she speaks very highly of this work. Even though it's a first-time author, it has been reworked and rewritten by some people that helped me, including my son, who's a Harvard graduate. We call him the smart one in the family, graduated from Duke and Harvard, and he is the director of the Pelt program for Harvard at this time. So he's got a lot of people at Harvard that are published that have looked at the book and have helped us in structuring the book to make it more readable to the consumer.
So there you go. Great story. Check out the book. Again, the name of the book is Not Your Average G.I. Joe. There you go. Great title of a book, folks. Again, thank you for your time, Joe.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
And if you saw the first video, check out part 1 if you didn't catch part 1, talking about his experience buying a Honda Pilot here from Stokes Honda. And this man's driven Jeeps, all types of different vehicles, but he's in love with his Honda Pilot. And so again, check out part 1 on that video to see his testimonial with Stokes Honda North. We thank you again. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. We'll see you soon.
And I'm a pilot driving a pilot.
There you go.
Think about that.
We'll see you soon.